Welcome back, everybody. I thought we'd take this opportunity to cover this particular subject matter, emergency first aid. Some of you might be getting a wee bit worried about what you would do. I'll just put this down now. In regards to dealing with somebody with any life affecting situations. First thing we need to cover obviously is infection control. Should always be wearing gloves when you're dealing with anything to do with first aid. It could be any body fluids, etc. So make sure that you're protecting yourself. With the coronavirus COVID-19 situation just now, we have to take extra precautions in terms of any body fluids at all, especially coming from the mouth and the nose. So it's vitally important that you maintain your safety at all times. 80% of CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, is chest compression, so don't be too worried if you can't or don't want to put your mouth over a person to give them rescue breaths, because you'll still be doing some good. Another thing to say for those of you that are working in the care sector, please check your care plans. Make sure you know about the person you're supporting in respect of making sure that they're not got DNR or DNAR, as some people call it, do not attempt resuscitation. That's a living will. You should still call for help, but you shouldn't resuscitate. We're also going to show you today a wee bit about using one of these life-saving device, otherwise known as a defib or an AED, an automated external defibrillator, but we'll come to that later. Just let me start off just by saying to you, whether you've been on a first aid course before or not, it's vitally important that you don't go beyond the realms of your capabilities, especially nowadays with what's happening with regards to infection control. So infection control is important. So washing hands, wearing gloves, making sure you don't transfer blood from one casualty to another, making sure that you're watching out for any body fluids. So another thing you might actually use either in a real situation or a training situation is one of these. There's two examples of these. Not least, so this is a face shield, a face mask. You can see clearly there's a valve here for your mouth to go over, and you just basically put it over the casualty's mouth, and that can protect you from anything coming back into your mouth in particular. We need to avoid that at all costs. So you may use that. There are other ones on the market. This is a bigger one, which is the same thing. It's basically turn it around the right way, that might help, wouldn't it? Mouth-to-mouth shield, so you can see there's another valve, a one-way valve on that. Another thing you may use and you may have in your first aid kits, and that's another thing, ask yourself, do I have a first aid kit to hand wherever I'm going? So obviously a lot of time we're being in the home, we're not going out just now, so therefore it's important that you have maybe access to these things. So take them with you wherever you're going. So this is called a pocket mask, and again this would be placed over the mouth and the nose of the individual like that, okay, and then you can breathe quite happily through there to protect yourself. So these are just some options, but as I reiterate again, 80% of CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, is just doing the actual chest compressions. Okay, so we also have some wipes here today, just for our purposes here today. So I'm going to bring in some assistants here, and you probably have all met Annie before. Annie, I actually got her name from an unfortunate French girl who fell into the Seine in Paris many years ago, and her father was so distraught. He went to the mayor of Paris and said, how come my daughter wasn't saved? The military knew how to do CPR, but the gendarmerie and the river police didn't. So we're going to show you how you actually operate CPR, cardiopulmonary resuscitation, life-saving techniques, and we'll also show you how a defib works. Okay, so I'm just going to put Annie down here. Okay, and we've also got, just to say, we've got Sasha with us here today. He's doing some filming. Later on, Sasha's going to pass the camera or the phone on to another member of the family, and then he's going to help me with some other scenarios, so we'll get some practical activity going. So Annie's on the floor here, okay? We can bring in a defib to help us. A defib can be used by anybody. You don't need training for this, and I'll prove it to you very shortly. I'm not going to do it straight away, we're going to come to that very soon. Okay, so I'll put that right beside the casualty on my side there. I'd like to draw your attention up to the flip chart here. Okay, there are three priorities in first aid. First one is when you come across a casualty, is make sure you are checking for danger, and then you check for, first of all, breathing, bleeding and broken bones. The 3 B's of first aid, okay? Once you've done that, you're checking for danger again, trying to get a response out of the casualty, checking the airway and making sure that they're breathing. And we're going to do a practical with Annie very shortly. When you come to a situation where you feel you need to phone for emergency services, you've got a number of options. So if we look at the flip chart here, we've got 3 in red. 999 is the obvious one, part of British culture, not likely to change soon. We've also got, follow the finger here, onto 911. Now, as you will know, and maybe some of the younger ones amongst us maybe know from gaming, etc., 911 is the American one. But it is still operational here in the UK. Because a lot of people were so influenced by American culture, that is something which you can use at the phone as well. You don't get through to California, they don't say, yes ma'am, Scotland, gee, that's going to take a while. No, don't worry about that. The other one is 112. And 112 is the number that's embedded in all mobile phones. It is also the main number that's used in Europe. So therefore, when you're actually swiping on your phone, or you're pressing 5 times on an iPhone to bring up the medical ID information and the opportunity to phone for emergency services, it is phoning 112. It's not phoning 999 or 911. The added advantage of 112, it locates you exactly through GPS, exactly where you are, or where the phone is, should I say. So therefore, it's an added advantage. It triggers it automatically. You've probably been seeing quite a lot of information from the government with regards to COVID-19, but just to be a wee bit of advice for you, and that is that 111, the main NHS 24 number nowadays, that's for advice only, okay? If you need an ambulance, you should definitely phone one of these 3 up here, not 111, okay? So just be clear on that, okay? So, remember, we're doing danger response, airway and breathing, okay? So, I'm just going to back down to Annie here. So we're going to do the first practical, and then we'll take a break and we'll move on to the next session. The first practical is we've got a casualty lying on the floor. So we're looking up, we're looking round, we're checking for danger, we're making sure nothing's going to harm ourselves. I've got gloves on. Try and shout for help, get somebody to come and help you, somebody who can go away and get that stuff. Get a mobile phone, bring a defib, whatever that you need. So we check for danger, we're making sure there's nothing going to harm us, especially if somebody's electrocuted, you need to put the power off before you touch the person. Then getting down on your knees, make sure that you're in a stable position on your knees. And ultimately, what we need to do is we need to check, try and get a response, should I say, from Annie. And simply all we do is shake the shoulders. Annie, can you hear me? Annie, can you hear me? Annie, go down to either ear. If they're wearing a hearing aid, pop that back in. They need to hear. Okay, so they need that for them to hear, okay? And the next thing we're going to do, we're done, check for danger, check response, you shout for help, somebody's coming, and then what you have to do is you need to check the airway. Just going to move this out the way for the time being. Make sure you get yourself in line with the head of the person who's collapsed there. You make sure you open up the airway. You can see a wee bit closer in, Sasha, if you don't mind. You can see on here, there's an artificial airway here. Okay, so ultimately we need to make sure that the chin is up. And then what we need to do, we need to look into the mouth. We need to check and make sure that there's nothing blocking the airway. Don't be tempted, however, to put your fingers in anybody's mouth, because the gag reflex is such that they're going to bite down on your fingers, and then you're going to be concentrating on your own pain rather than their needs as much as anything else. Then what we need to do is we need to put a head down, and we need to look down the body for up to 10 seconds, 2 or 3 breaths. Some people might ask, well, why 2 or 3? Why not just 1? Well, you need to feel a cycle of breathing. You need to make sure there's a cycle of breathing at all times, not just one breath. It might be their last breath. At this stage, because you know that they're not breathing, you would shout for help again if nobody's coming. If you're on your own, you might need to go and get your phone and call. Don't start this, or try not to start this until such time as you've got the emergency services on the way, okay? And then once you know that they're on the way, you can start doing whatever you have to do. Now, if you actually just go to my chest here, if you put 2 fingers down below the sternum, the breastbone, and then swivel them round just in here, you're slightly going left on Annie here, just about there, okay? And you put your heel of your hand in there. You then cross over your fingers and get yourself in a position where your whole body is over Annie. Don't be back on your ankles like that, because that's going to be kind of awkward for you, because you're not going to be getting the strength in order to put into Annie's chest. People sometimes ask me, well, how deep do you press? Well, it's about 1/3 of the depth of the chest. And the number that you have to do, and for an adult who's on dry land, it is 30 compressions and 2 breaths. We used to do it to the tune of Nelly the Elephant, but now it's staying alive, which is obviously very important to remember. So ultimately get your body well over, lock your elbows in, don't flex your arms, okay? And get your whole body over, and off we go. Ready? Okay, once you've done 30 compressions, and at that sort of speed, you need to then pinch the nose, head tilt, chin lift, make sure your whole mouth covers theirs, and then blow steadily into their lungs. Okay. Okay, and then what you do is you go back on again and keep on going. And then you go back and you do 30 compressions and 2 breaths. You keep on going until such time as either you're too tired, the paramedics come along and obviously relieve you, or it could be that you pass on to somebody else. That person doesn't need to be trained. You can coach them. Okay, so you're looking for the chest to rise and fall, and you keep on going. Just a word of warning, if somebody has come out of water, you need to give 5 rescue breaths first, just to overinflate their lungs. And then you go back into 30 compressions and 2 breaths. And that's essentially a CPR function with an adult. With a child, you would do the same in terms of breaths, but you would do 5 breaths first. A child is deemed to be from 1 year up to puberty. A baby is deemed to be from birth up to 1 year. For a child, you would do 5 rescue breaths first, and then you would put one hand in the centre of the chest, okay? And you would do 30 compressions like that, okay? For a baby, however, it is slightly different. So what we need to do is we need to give them 5 rescue breaths first, but make sure that you're actually doing over the mouth and the nose, and it's like blowing out a candle, So I'm just going to go down, and sorry, I should have said, if you're trying to get a response out of a baby, just tickle their feet. They're very sensitive feet. You can give their shoulders a wee tap, but don't do too much movement because you could have problems with the neck. Over the mouth and the nose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 2 fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you just have to go back to do 2. And you keep on going. Okay, so that concludes the CPR part of the training. In part 2, what we're going to be looking at is the use of a defib. I'll see you later.